John Lennon of DTV. Tonight we have good news from Belfast, where a historic agreement has just taken place. Bring you to Belfast, where our reporter, Frederick Maddox, is standing by. Frederick?
Hello, this is Frederick Maddox reporting live from Belfast, Northern Ireland, outside the Starmont Parliament buildings. Today, April 10th, 1998, a historic agreement was reached between Great Britain and the Republic of Ireland. The Good Friday Agreement, as it has been dubbed, is an attempt by both parties to end 30-plus years of violence between Roman Catholic minority and Protestant majority within the country.
Frederick, what exactly has been going on in Northern Ireland?
Over the last 30 years, there has been an ongoing conflict between the Protestants and Catholics in the country. This period of time in Northern Ireland is known as the Troubles, and resulted in the deaths of around 3,600 civilians and soldiers. The Troubles date back hundreds of years, but have intensified over the last 30 years. The two main groups fighting in Northern Ireland were the IRA, the Irish Republican Army, and the Black and Tans. However, there are many splinter groups associated with the IRA. In addition, many English troops were stationed in Northern Ireland to preserve the peace during this time period.
For those of us at home, what groups were involved in the Troubles?
Sure, John. The IRA represented the Catholic minority in the country. The IRA was made up largely of Republicans and nationalists who wanted to become part of the Republic of Ireland. The IRA and its splinter groups were notoriously known for many acts of terrorism, including car bombings, shootings, and more. Most famously, they carried out a car bombing which took the lives of 29 civilians, the greatest atrocity during the Troubles. The Black and Tans, created by Winston Churchill in 1919, were one of the groups that opposed the IRA. They were made up of Protestant soldiers who were infamous for their attacks on civilians. In the summer of 1920, the Black and Tans were responsible for burning several villages in Northern Ireland.
What has been changed under the new agreement? Was this conflict truly based on religion?
Conflict was not based on religion, rather a territorial dispute. Under the former government of Northern Ireland, the Protestant majority were given the lion's share of political power, and this led to unrest among Catholics in the country. After the events of Bloody Sunday, this government was dissolved, and peace talks began in the nation. However, the peace talks did not stop the IRA from expanding their attacks to mainland Britain. The situation continued to intensify, with the Queen's cousin, Lord Mountbatten, killed by a planted car bomb by the IRA in 1979. In 1984, there was an attempt to murder Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. The violence continued in 1985, when the IRA killed 11 civilians in Enniskillen. Today, April 10th, a solution has finally been reached to solve this problem. The British and Irish government agreed on a three-pronged plan to reunify the island of Ireland and ease tensions in Northern Ireland. The first strand of this plan established the Northern Ireland Assembly, a new government in which both parties would share economic power. The second strand called for cross-border cooperation between Northern Ireland and Ireland, while the third called for continued talks and cooperation between the British and Irish governments.
Thanks, Frederick. We had the chance to interview William McCoy, a Protestant pastor who lived in Belfast during the Troubles. We will now cut to that interview. William McCoy, could you please give us some information about yourself?
Hi, my name is William McCoy, and I'm from Belfast, Northern Ireland, and we're going to be talking about the time of the Troubles there.
What was the atmosphere like in Belfast during the Troubles?
The atmosphere was very fearful because people would go into the city of Belfast and they had no guarantee they were going to come home again because of bombs and shootings and killings and all kinds of atrocities. And there was a lot of fear and a lot of distrust. You were looking over your shoulder all the time, wondering if someone is going to shoot you or do something terrible to you at that time. The thing that was sort of amazing was that the Catholic Church and the Protestant Church, as it was called, both claimed to be Christian churches. And as most people know, the Christian message isn't about killing each other, it's about loving each other. And being a pastor, I couldn't understand why a Protestant would kill a Catholic and a Catholic would kill a Protestant, especially just in the name of religion, when both parties claim to save claim to serve the same God.
Can you explain what the conflict that happened in Northern Ireland was about?
When you go back to the problems that happened in Ireland, it goes back a long, long time. It actually goes back to the 16th century when King William of Orange defeated King James, who was in Ireland at that time, and through that war it just continued on and on and on, generation after generation. In a Protestant home, and my mother would have said many times, never trust a Catholic, and then some of my Catholic friends would be told by their parents, never trust a Protestant. So it went from generation to generation to generation, and that's something I couldn't fully understand, especially when I became a Christian, and especially when I became a pastor. I couldn't understand how on earth these things could go on and on and on, but they did.
What groups were involved in the conflict in Northern Ireland?
The most notorious group was called the IRA, or Irish Republican Army, and they were the Catholic side, and the Protestant side had an organization called the Black and Tans, and they would do acts of terrorism. I had a very vivid experience with the Irish Republican Army. The church that I was pastoring had open air services, and they decided they'd like to go to the city of Londonderry, which was under the control of the Irish Republican Army. So we went to Londonderry, me and another assistant, and we went to the Catholic church first. We went to see, I forget his name, but he was a Catholic priest, and I said to him, we wanted to go to the Bogside, which was a Catholic controlled part of the city. And he said, if you go there, the IRA will kill you for sure. And we decided we would go. We went to the Bogside and we inquired. We were told we'd have to get permission from the Irish Republican Army before we could say anything. And we found the headquarters of the Irish Republican Army, and we went along, and we went into a room. There was about 6 men there, and they were all heavily armed with machine guns and God knows what else. And they said to me, what are you here for? I said, we're here to preach the gospel to the people of Londonderry. And he says, well, if you haven't got something good to say to me right now, and he took out a .45 revolver. He says, I'm going to put a shot right through your head right now. You're going to die. And I said to him, sir, the message I have for the people of Londonderry is the same message for you. He says, what is it? And he used curse words. And I said, my message to you and to the city of Londonderry is that God loves you.
Yes, dear, it's okay. Take a deep breath.
I says, now pull the trigger. And he says, you're a brave man. I says, no, I'm not. I says, but I will die for Jesus Christ.
We thank our reporter, Frederick Maddox, and Pastor William McCoy for joining us on the show today. That's it for today, folks. Please join us tomorrow at the same time on DTV.